The sleeper hit is back. Don't question the magic. You're watching Beyond the Trailers review of the second best exotic Marigold hotel.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the great Guy Chambers.
Lordy Lord, have mercy on my ovaries.
First time in India?
No, it's just pretty much a dream until now.
Any other dreams I could help you with?
You should marry that girl.
I want to.
Sometimes it seems to me that the difference between what we want and what we fear is the width of an eyelash.
I'm so sorry. Were you talking to me?
I don't know why I tell you anything.
Back in 2012, following on the heels of moderate box office hit Eat, Pray, Love, the best exotic Marigold Hotel hit theaters at the beginning of the summer movie season. To be exact, it opened in limited release opposite The Avengers. And lo and behold, it proved to be one of the greatest counter-programming successes of all time. Sure, it wasn't a worldwide phenomenon like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, but still, this little movie made for just $5 million went on to gross over $130 million worldwide. Hollywood, of course, took notice. But copycat films Million Dollar Arm and The 100-Foot Journey couldn't duplicate Marigold's success. But now the big question is, can Marigold duplicate its own success? Or was it truly lightning in a bottle? Cocoon couldn't do it, yet for that sequel, even though most of the cast returned, the original creative team from behind the camera did not. That's not the case, though, with this Marigold sequel. Both the original director, Shakespeare in Love's John Madden, and screenwriter Ol Parker return, as does almost the entire original cast, with the exception of Tom Wilkinson. He's incredibly busy with Selma and Unfinished Business, which actually opens in wide release opposite the second best exotic Marigold Hotel. But while Wilkinson pals around with Vince Vaughn and Dave Franco, his old friends have their own secret weapon, Richard Gere. Gere, 65, hasn't embraced his senior citizen status yet on the silver screen, but perhaps that's just what he needs, as the former heartthrob hasn't had a hit since Chicago way back in 2002. Could he become the American version of UK senior heartthrob Bill Nye, who just so happens to be in this very movie? Dev Patel also stars again, and he'll actually be competing with himself, as Chappie opens the same weekend as well in wide release. So, can the Marigold brand work its magic again against juggernauts like Chappie and Unfinished Business, or is it testing its luck? This is a very charming movie, but it's also a very disarming movie. And that's because while on the surface, the second best exotic Marigold Hotel seems like just a light pick-me-up movie, the truth is that below that surface, there's an awful lot of deep and somewhat dark subtext. And that's because this movie focuses on a cast of characters later in life that is unusually self-aware of both their successes and their failures. And they're not only very self-aware, but also unusually frank about it. I'm going to give you an example which isn't going to give too much away about the movie, but I think, you know, it's just in its offhandedness. It just shows you how the movie can just all of a sudden just kind of like shiv you with like a deep emotional thought. And that's that one of the older women in the film, she's, you know, talking to a character, and she's quite promiscuous. And so she wants to give a gift to a young girl she's met, and she gives her a music box with a dancer on it. And she turns to the gentleman she's with, and she says, you know, when I was young, I danced quite a bit, and I was actually quite good at it. But then I gave it up like I gave up so many things in life. And that's all she says. But it just says so much in that one sentence, because you have a character who is aware that because throughout her life she was so focused on having a good time right now that she didn't work hard or pursue certain opportunities and therefore missed out on certain things in life. And she's, again, aware of that and also willing to share it with others. It was just something that really catches you off guard because you think, again, you're in a light pick-me-up movie, but then you have these deep thoughts thrown at you. And all the characters go through these things. And that makes for a film which I think highlights something that's very important in life, and that's that just because, you know, just like when you become an adult, you don't get all the answers. You know, often when you're in high school, you think, oh, as soon as I graduate college, I'm going to know everything. That's not true. And I think that this movie makes it clear that when you become a senior citizen, you're also still not going to know everything, which I think is a very big distinction from the way Hollywood usually depicts older characters. They usually are shown having all the answers and being content in life. But these characters are still very much alive and still very much a work in progress. Now that means, obviously, that this is a very well written and sophisticated script. And it's the same screenwriter from the first film, same filmmakers as I talked about in the open. And I think that that level of quality and sophistication is why this franchise, well now it's a franchise, gets more attention both from critics and audiences than the less qualified, I guess you could say, copycat films that we also discussed in the open. There's just a level of quality that is unusual for this type of film and, to be honest, any type of film. Now, for all its darker moments, I do want to make sure that you are aware that it has very light moments as well. There were many times in the film when I laughed out loud, and also India is absolutely breathtaking. They do just such a wonderful job depicting the city and why these people want to retire there. And not retire there. I think the film really goes out of its way to point out that they're still leading very rich and rewarding lives and actually taking more risks, which I think is an important thing to, consider at any point in your life, not just when you become older and maybe feel you have nothing to lose, right? I mean, just look at that woman who said she threw away so many opportunities. Don't let that be you. Now, as for whether or not I enjoyed the film, I have to tell you, I'm still trying to figure that out because it did stir up a lot of emotions and thoughts within me. But that, I think, is commendable in and of itself. And I will say that the film held my attention. As I said, it made me laugh out loud several times. It made me think a lot, and I'm still thinking about it. So take that for what you will when you decide if this is a film you want to see. But I will warn you, it's going to make you think of maybe perhaps some slightly depressing and darker things than you might have expected. As for the cast, of course, they're very good across the board. This is the cream of the crop when it comes to older UK actors. I think, though, that Dev Patel deserves a special shout-out, not only because he's able to keep up with this cast, but also because his role is a very difficult role. He has a very fine line to walk. His character often acts in a cartoonish manner, both physically and in the lines that he has. And also he has, a very thick Indian accent. And Dev Patel, who's from the UK, does a wonderful job living up to the comedic aspects of the character and making him lovable, but not a clown. And still seem very real, very grounded. This character has tremendous ups and downs. I really felt for him. He had a very interesting problem, posed to himself as well, which I thought was great. I have to say, though, you can tell me what you think. I thought he shouldn't have gotten married to this woman. I thought some of the things she did were a little too underhanded for me to forgive, but I'm glad it had, well, you'll see. You'll see what happens. I don't want to give too much away. But you see, there are a lot of life big questions asked here and answered, and you might not agree with all of the answers. That's another interesting aspect of the film. It might not depict the way everybody would want to live their lives. But Dev Patel is very, very good. Richard Gere, he's new. I wanted to touch on him. He does a nice job. I really was happy to see that he embraced, playing his advanced years as he actually is. But I would say, though, that that's as far as he went outside of his comfort zone. He just basically played older Richard Gere. Although he did dance at the end in the big Bollywood number, so I appreciated him, being game in that regard. And then finally, Spaceship Earth fans. If you've ever ridden Spaceship Earth in Epcot, Judi Dench currently does the narration for that ride. And I have to say, I've seen her obviously in a number of films, and the Bond films, etc. But I've never been so instantly brought back to that ride as I was here. Every time she opened her mouth, I was like, I feel like I'm on Spaceship Earth. She should be whispering these lines in my ear from the speaker behind my head. I don't know if it was like she was speaking in the same kind of manner here. There's some kind of quality she was affecting. Maybe it was that her lines were very much about life in the broader scheme of things. But it was a little distracting. It was really weird. And I'm curious if you've seen the film and if you've been on Spaceship Earth and Epcot, did you have the same situation? So that's my review of the second best exotic Marigold hotel. It's already doing quite well overseas where it's open. Perhaps we'll see a third. And I do have to say that it would be a place I'd be tempted to visit in real life. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. Write your own thoughts down below, and you can check out some other episodes right now.